In the era of high school quarterbacks going to programs in college where they can start as freshmen or they hit the transfer portal if they're not starting by year two, Texas's Arch Manning is a glaring exception. Why is Arch Manning still at Texas, and why is he there for the long haul? This is my take. Arch Manning, the five-star high school recruit, the nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning, the grandson of Archie Manning. He was the most talked about quarterback recruit in the country last year. Where was he going to go play? Was he going to follow Eli's footsteps and his grandfather's and go play for the Rebels at Ole Miss? Or was he going to go play for the Volunteers at Tennessee like his other uncle Peyton did? Or would Arch choose perennial power, Alabama or Georgia, and compete for a national title every year? Well, he surprised a lot of the pundits and the gurus by selecting the University of Texas and going to play for Steve Sarkisian in the Big 12. And Manning went to Texas knowing full well that he wouldn't be the guy as a freshman. And in fact, he knew going in full well that he was going into a really strong QB room, and he was going to be competing with Quinn Ewers, who's a hell of a quarterback and had 2 years of eligibility remaining. All Ewers did was take Texas to the Final Four this year, eventually losing to the national runner-up Washington Huskies. And Ewers is coming back for his senior campaign this next season in 2024. So why is Arch Manning still at Texas? Number one, he's really smart. Okay, Arch Manning knows that with his talent and with Texas's offense and Steve Sarkisian's coaching, that if he puts in his time and he allows the natural maturation process to go into play, when he does step in, it's going to be lights out for college football. Manning knows that there's a major difference mentally and physically between a sophomore, somewhat, but especially a third-year sophomore, which is what he'll be in the 2025 season. There's a big difference between those guys and an incoming freshman. Mentally and physically, it's night and day. A lot of high school quarterbacks don't realize this. A lot of high school quarterbacks jump into situations or choose where they're going to go play based on the fact that they want to be able to be the starter for 4 years and be the guy almost immediately. And it ends up biting them in the ass in the long haul because they spend the first year or two really spinning their wheels. And this has a detrimental effect to these guys. It has a detrimental effect to these guys mentally. They're coming in as the hot shot, the big man on campus. And instead of gradually perfecting their game and growing into the responsibility and the position of being the starting quarterback for a Division I football team, they jump in too early and they have to deal with failure for the most part and frustration that they haven't dealt with before. So you're talking about an 18-year-old mind of a high school senior going into college, an 18-year-old mind versus a 20 or a 21-year-old mind. Big, big difference night and day. Number two, Arch Manning's getting great advice. Think about this now. How many quarterbacks are, let's say, spending the 4th of July holiday at the family barbecue and sitting on the patio in the backyard and talking football with your grandfather, Archie Manning, and your two uncles, Peyton and Eli Manning, talking about offense, talking about quarterback play, talking about defenses, talking about route concepts, talking about pass protections, talking about how to handle the media, talking about Now, NIL. Wow. And these guys know what they're doing. The Manning family knows what they're doing. Plenty of experience, starting with Archie and then going to his two sons and now to Arch. So the advice that he is getting from his family is really good advice, and he's going to take full advantage of that. He's basically following the same plan that Eli Manning went through at Ole Miss, where he came in his freshman year and redshirted. And then his second year, he competed for the job, but got beat out. So he was playing as a backup, spot time. And then he started the last 3 years of his Ole Miss career and lit it up. And that's exactly the scenario that looks like it's going to be playing out for Arch. Now, there are some unique high school quarterbacks that can step right in out of high school and play as true freshmen and be productive and be awesome right out of the gates. Those guys are few and far between. There are also a ton of stories of young QBs that didn't exactly have the type of career that they thought they would have in college because they were ruined by playing too soon. And it's the same thing you see in the NFL when you see some of these rookie quarterbacks that are forced in to start as a rookie and they're not ready for it yet. I can't drive this point home enough. The difference between Arch Manning going into the 2025 season with 2 years of experience under his belt at Texas and him going into this 2024 season with 1 year and one spring ball under his belt, those differences are going to be glaring in 2025. Arch Manning will be a grown-ass man in 2025. And I'm telling you, this dude's got some skills. He can play. The scenario is perfect for him in Austin, Texas right now. And he's going to play the script the way that it should be done. And it's going to be awesome for Arch Manning. Number 3, Manning's getting great coaching, and he knows it. And that's the reason why he went to Texas. Steve Sarkisian is a hell of a coach, and he's a hell of an offensive coordinator and a hell of a quarterback coach. Okay, he was a really, really good quarterback in college. First at El Camino Junior College in California and then BYU. He knows the passing game. He knows offense, and he runs a QB-friendly offense. Arch Manning knows this. That's why he went to Austin. That's why he's playing for the Longhorns, and that's a big reason why he's staying. There are not a plethora of QB-friendly OCs in college football right now. There used to be, but based on the statistics that we saw in some of the games this year in major conferences, horrific offensive numbers. We're talking about quarterbacks throwing the ball 8 to 10 times in a game in 75-degree weather. And their offense putting up 3 or 7 points. That's not what Texas is all about, and that's not what Sarkisian's all about. He knows how to coach the quarterbacks. He knows the mental part that goes into the game, and he also knows the value of bringing Arch Manning along slowly so that when he does step in full time, and it could even happen this year, you never know what's going to happen. Quinn Ewers is a hell of a quarterback, and I'm sure that they've got open competition in spring ball and when fall camp opens up. But I'm also pretty sure that Sarkisian thinks that the plan is Quinn Ewers, who took us to the Final Four last year, is going to be our guy. And we're going to give Arch some great game experience this year and give him another year of coaching under his belt. And then we're going to hand him the football for 2025. Okay, number 4 reason. I mentioned this earlier. Sarkisian runs a QB-friendly offense. Now, make no mistake about this. Texas Longhorns, their performance in the Big 12 championship game this year against Oklahoma State punched their ticket to the semifinals and the Final Four. They lit it up against OSU. We're talking about 33 first downs, 622 yards of offense. That 622 yards of offense was 464 yards throwing and just about 200 yards rushing. That's playing fun, wide open offensive football. Quinn Ewers was 35 for 46 for 452 yards and 4 tugs in that game. And again, that performance by Texas's offense, and they were doing that kind of stuff all year long. That performance in that Big 12 title game got them to the semifinals. And Arch Manning knows that. He knows that that is the offense that's going to be waiting for him when he takes 100% control of that offense. So Manning's in a win-win situation. He's going to compete to play. And if he does play, good for him. It's just a little bit earlier where he jumps into the fray, okay? But if the script plays out the way that I think Sarkisian in Texas wants it to, Arch Manning's going to get coached up in practice every day. And because he doesn't have to worry about shirting this year and they don't have to worry about how many games he plays in and all that kind of stuff, he's going to be getting a lot of quality game reps, and you can't replicate the game reps in practice. There's a big difference between those two. Anytime that you can get your backup quarterback into multiple games throughout the season, and I'm not talking about just mop-up duty at the end of wins. I'm talking about choosing a series or two in the first half of the game and put Arch Manning in with the number ones and let him do his thing. That's invaluable. The other thing that Manning has going for him is another year of learning Steve Sarkisian's way of playing quarterback. Now, Manning has been coached up, great advice, great mechanics from his family for his entire life. And now at the University of Texas, he has turned that over to Steve Sarkisian, who really knows what he's doing. And every day that Arch Manning goes in the QB room for whiteboard sessions, for film sessions, he's getting a day smarter and a day better and a day more ready to light it up when it's his turn. Okay, now I'm going to tie this in a little bit with what I did at Santa Rosa Junior College. I was the head coach there for 17 years, from 96 to 2012. And in those 17 years, I had 2 quarterbacks that were 2-year starters, which means the other 13 years, my starting quarterback was a 1-year starter. And the reason that I bring this up is because Arch Manning basically is a JUCO quarterback when he goes into the 2025 season. What used to make JC quarterbacks so valuable to 4-year schools was when they signed them and brought them in, they knew that they were getting somebody that was going to be ready to step in and play mentally and physically, because they've had 2 or 3 years at the JUCO level to get ready. And that's basically what Arch Manning's doing here at Texas. Okay, getting back to Santa Rosa Junior College, this was the way I did it with my quarterbacks. They would come in as a true freshman and gray shirt, meaning they would take less than 12 units. Because they're considered now a part-time student, their eligibility doesn't start. So they go to meetings, they lift, they practice. They obviously don't play in games. It's a year of getting better, more mature, physically better with your mechanics, no eligibility used. Okay, that's year 1, gray shirt. Second year, they come in, they start their eligibility by being a full-time student, 12 units or more, but they're the backup. They're the backup, okay? They back the starter up. They get coached up all year in practice. They get a year smarter, a year stronger, a year more mature. They get quality game reps. And then their third year, in our program at SRJC. That's when they started. And in those 17 years, we led the nation in passing 8 times. And 3 other times we were in the top 5 in the country in passing. And one of those times it was done by a 2-year starter. Okay, so all the other seasons where we led the country in passing, we were doing it with a guy that was just a 1-year starter. And then those guys would lead the nation in passing. They would set school records, and then they'd sign scholarships and move to the next level. These guys knew coming in what our plan was, or what my plan was. Gray shirt, backup, start. You're going to be a 1-year starter. All these quarterbacks knew that. But what was the trade-off to being a 1-year starter? Well, when they did start, they were ready to go, and they lit it up, and they signed scholarships to move on. That's the route that Texas has got for Arch Manning. And Sarkisian knows what he's doing. And Arch Manning knows that this track is the best possible thing for him and the things that he wants to accomplish with his career. Okay, so at the end of the day, who are the winners in this whole scenario with Arch Manning staying at Texas? Well, number one, Steve Sarkisian. He's got 2 great quarterbacks, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. What a hell of a situation to be in for a head coach. And he can sleep easy at night knowing that next year and the year after and the year after, okay, he's going to have a dude that's going to light it up. So Sarkisian's definitely a winner. The Texas Longhorns, their football program, winner. You got to have 2 guys that can play at QB. Okay, I always used to tell our quarterbacks, and my number 2 quarterback, you are 1 play away from being the starter. Okay, injuries happen, freak things happen. You are 1 snap away from being the starter. You got to have 2 guys that can play. Texas is in good shape with those 2 quarterbacks in their QB room. Who else wins? The Texas Longhorn fan base. Okay, now in the era of transfer portal and all that garbage, how infuriating is it to the fan base when you've got a great player in your program and the next year he's no longer there because he's playing for somebody that you're going to be lined up and playing against? Well, that's not the situation with Arch Manning. So the Longhorns know that based on their spring game this year, based on Quinn Ewers, based on Arch Manning, they got a lot of firepower coming back, and they know that they got a dude at the QB position that's going to be there for 3 years. That's good. Quinn Ewers is a winner in this. Think about this now. You get better as a starting quarterback if the number 2 guy behind you is nipping at your heels every day in practice. It makes you better. Competition makes you better. And they definitely have this at Texas. Now, everybody's talking about the performance that Arch Manning had in the spring game recently. You can bet that's like lit a fire under Ewers' ass. You know, he's self-motivated to begin with really good QB skills. He's going to be going balls to the wall to be better and keep Manning at arm's length, which makes Quinn Ewers a better quarterback. And then finally, as we've said in this whole show today, Arch Manning is a winner. He's smart and he's getting great advice and he's in a good environment and situation. He's going to be a big-time winner at the end of this. Trust me when I say, if it plays out to where Arch Manning is the backup to Ewers this year, in 2025, he's going to hit the ground running. And the dude can play. All right? The guy can play. His mechanics, his poise in the pocket, his mental acuity with the passing game, he can play. Quick release, throws a good ball. And he's really got his head screwed on right, which I think is in the Manning DNA. But at the end of the day, Arch Manning is a big winner in this whole scenario. Okay, if you enjoyed today's show on Arch Manning, please hit that like button. And if you like listening to my take and insight into playing the hardest position in all of sports, then please subscribe to QB Unfiltered. Thanks for joining me today. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.